Hey, kids, must be podcast time again. Today we're talking Linda Lindas, we're talking a little bit of Iron Maiden, hey, we're talking about chicken wire. And I'll tell you all about it on the other side.
Hello, you're listening to the John Huff Podcast. Oh, yay.
This whole episode just got totally jacked by a piece of new information, man. Now, literally, I had this whole thing framed out, right? Knew how I was gonna come in. I've told you before, most of the time, I have only kind of the first line of the podcast in mind. I got it charted out, you know, if you want to speak in musician speak. I got the episode charted out, but I don't write anything down that I'm going to say specifically, you know, just like the bullet points. And then you kind of just rely on the words to come, man. But I'd like to have the first line. And once I hit that first line, you know, then everything seems to kind of click into place thereafter, more or less. So I had that ready to rock this time, you know. Was going to do a whole thing on the Linda Lindas. And I'm still going to do a whole thing on the Linda Lindas, man. But literally, as I was kind of fact-checking before I came on here, believe it or not, there's research involved, kids. And I was just going over my facts and I was just digging in a little deeper on a couple of things. And then I discovered something about the Linda Lindas that blew my whole Linda Lindas thing right off course. And I'm still kind of scrambling, man. I'm still kind of recovering here. And I'd like to take a couple days just to shake it down, just to put it back into a new kind of position, you know. Frame it a little bit differently, but it's Manic Monday, kids. And Game 7 of the Habs-Leafs series is tonight, and I got that on my mind, and I know that this podcast has to roll out on Tuesday morning, man, so I don't have time to reframe. Gotta go, man. Gotta roll. Gotta jump out of that plane. It's 0 hour. So do you know about the Linda Lindas? Let's start there, okay? You know, if you've had your ear to the ground, since the COVID started, I've made a point of not having my ear to the ground, you know, because my ear got singed just a little bit. But if you've had your ear to the ground, you've heard about the Linda Lindas in the past month, okay? Now, this is a band out of LA, and they are a bunch of teenagers. Literally, the drummer in this band is like 10. And they're this group of teenagers, and I'm not sure how the ethnicities work here. And I'm going to go all, you know, middle-aged white guy trying to be current. I'm being very sensitive about the words I use around ethnicity because I don't want to tap dance on any landmines here. But the gist is, these are a bunch of teenagers from LA. They have ethnically an Asian and a Latin kind of background, all right? So they're getting kind of presented as these Asian kids from LA, all right? And I don't know what the politically correct way to frame that is. I'm not trying to say anything bad here. Just acknowledging that part of the game is these are not white kids. Am I allowed to say that they're not white kids, you know? And that matters, okay? That is not just an observation for the sake of it. That's relevant to the story, all right? Because a few weeks ago, these teenagers, the Linda Lindas, did a performance at the Los Angeles Public Library, during which they performed a tune called Racist, Sexist Boy, all right? Now, the kid, the drummer, they're all kids, but the youngest one, the drummer, I gather, when the COVID started, was having a chat with one of her classmates, and that little boy, I believe, said that his dad told him he can't be around Chinese people anymore because of the coronavirus. And the little drummer girl is like, well, dude, I'm Chinese. And that blew the other kid's mind. You know, hadn't occurred to him, I guess, that some of his classmates may be Chinese people, you know. And we know when the COVID started and our, the dear former president didn't help with kind of pinning this on China, Kung Flu and all that stuff, all that really bad stuff. And so, that leaked down into the kids, man. The monkey see, monkey do kind of thing. You've heard that about kids. They will mimic, they will pick up what they learn from their parents, man. So you've got this, apparently, father saying to his kid, don't hang around Chinese people because of the coronavirus. And the little 10-year-old drummer, she's going to pick up that vibe, man. It's like, I'm Chinese. And so they write this song, Racist, Sexist Boy, about that incident. And they play it at this gig at the LA Public Library. And doesn't the video of that performance go viral? It's like 3 weeks ago, man, this video gets released and people begin to pick up on this tune. Very topical, very timely, kids, because there was a lot of racist violence beginning to happen in the States against Asian people, whether they're Chinese or not. And by the way, most of them are just Americans, man. A side note, there's a book came out, I don't know how many years ago now, like 15 years ago, called My Year of Meats. And I'm winging this, I'm off the cuff in this. But it was written by a Japanese-American writer. And it was all to do with this Japanese TV show trying to sell products. And it was like a Japanese cooking show in this novel, right? And they're going to all around America to learn how the Americans prepare meat. Now, I don't remember all the details of this, but I remember the producer on the show being kind of the first-person narrator of this book, and she's American. She's of Japanese heritage, but she's American. And I remember in the book, there's a scene where she gets into an argument with somebody demanding to know, what are you? Where are you from? And she's like, I'm an effing American. As are most of the people who have been harassed over the coronavirus in the States, right? Including these girls in the Linda Lindas. So they do this track, Racist, Sexist Boy, and it freaking blows up, man. And if you've had your ear to the ground, you've heard about the Linda Lindas, this band from LA, these teenagers, and this song, Racist, Sexist Boy, because it's very timely, all right? And so I had heard about this, and I went digging into it too, man. Wanted to find out what it was about, wanted to appear to be hip with the kids, man, because if this podcast appeals to no one, it certainly appeals to the kids out there, man. Teenagers writing me left and right, saying how much they like to hear about Black Swan, that kind of stuff. So I go and I listen to the Linda Lindas. Now what they are is kind of a 3-chord street punk thing, right? And that's cool, man. The Ramones were a 3-chord street punk thing, and everybody freaking reveres the Ramones, man. So you got these teenagers, Asian/Latin, Latinx. I don't know what the terminology is, man. Don't cancel me over this, all right? I'm trying to be modern, right? So you got these kids, and they're playing this street punk stuff. Great, right? And so I'm listening to the recordings. First thing I did is I went to watch the video that went viral, right? It's like, okay, that's cool. The kids are playing. That's awesome. So I went and listened to the recordings, and I'm like, wow, man. Oklahoma, they're kind of freaking great, man. Now, Oklahoma is a Ted Lasso reference, all right? Did you go out and watch Ted Lasso like I told you to? Best thing I've watched in a long dang time. That's a Ted Lasso thing. He was in, marriage counseling with his wife, and they had kind of like a safe word, Oklahoma. And when somebody says Oklahoma, what they're saying is, I want your honest, genuine opinion, even if it's gonna hurt, man. So Oklahoma, my Oklahoma opinion on the Linda Lindas was this is actually freaking great, man. Now, it's probably not something I'm gonna listen to a lot, okay? But they got this EP online, right? And it's 3-chord punk stuff, kind of new wave, kind of bratty. They're teenagers after all. But there are hooks galore in this music. And I'm like, wow, there's something happening with this band. And then a couple years ago, they had been commissioned by Amy Poehler, who had seen them open for Bikini Kill, to do a couple songs for this film called Moxie, all right? I don't know anything about Moxie except it either is or will be on Netflix, right? I don't know anything about it, but those tunes are posted on the Spotify, the songs that they recorded for Moxie. So I had listened to like this 4-song EP that they've got out right now. And I thought, that's really cool, man. There's hooks happening here. There's something going on with this band, right? And then after I listened to that on Spotify, it loaded up the next thing, which was these tunes from Moxie. And there's a tune comes on called Rebel Girl, okay? Now, up to this point, I thought, this band is freaking cool, man. Like, there's something happening here. And then Rebel Girl comes on, and I'm like, wow. This song crushes, man. This song is great. And so, you know, it's another 3-chord bratty punk song, but it's freaking awesome. And then after the chorus, there's like this guitar riff that happens. And I'm like, this is killer. This is a legit, genuinely great song. And so I'm stoked on the Linda Lindas, man. And I've been listening to this stuff, and I've been reading about them, and I've been looking online. And I'm getting ready to do this episode, and I had a whole lead-in thing I was going to do about playing in a library. And I run across the song Rebel Girl online, and I realize it's a cover, man. Rebel Girl is not a Linda Lindas tune. Rebel Girl is a Bikini Kill tune. And it's a freaking killer Bikini Kill tune. I've never listened to Bikini Kill. I knew of the band, but okay, this is not music marketed to me, all right? I'm wrapped up listening to King's X and Galactic Cowboys and stuff. I haven't paid much attention to Bikini Kill, so I think I can be forgiven for not knowing that Rebel Girl was a Bikini Kill song, right? Now, Linda Lindas opened for Bikini Kill at one point. Like, this band, I know they blew up in the last month, but there's like a history, right? There's a history here with this band. They've been sort of inching their way along. And it doesn't hurt when Amy Poehler comes along and sees you open for Bikini Kill and commissions you to write for her movie. You know, sometimes stuff does fall into place, man, even if you're a 10-year-old drummer. So that isn't their tune. And then I went back in time and I saw some footage of them playing Rebel Girl live. And it didn't have that guitar lick. And if I'm being honest, it wasn't that great, man. I was looking at it like, wait a minute. This isn't the same song, and this is not well performed, based on what I heard from the recording of it. And I'm like, is somebody helping? You know? Like, I don't know, is somebody writing with them? And then I dig a little bit deeper, and I find out that the father of 2 of them is no less than Carlos de la Garza, Grammy Award-winning producer and songwriter. It's like, oh, that helps. And then one of the others is the daughter of Martin Wong, who is the co-founder of Giant Robot Magazine, which is an Asian/Asian American pop culture magazine, very, very popular. So it's like, yeah, okay, there's some people behind this band, you know? And I was prepared at that point for all of this to collapse like a house of cards. Like, okay, there's like big pop culture people behind them. There's a Grammy award-winning producer behind them, probably helping them write songs. And then the one that I loved so much is not even their tune. It's a Bikini Kill tune. And then I watched them perform it, and I'm like, okay, all right, this is maybe not going to work the way I thought it would. And that came to me, the Bikini Kill thing came to me literally like 5 minutes before I was ready to hit record. And then it's like, the whole thing falls apart, man. My opinions got changed. My podcast got jacked on this because it didn't turn out to be the way it appeared. But I thought I'd dig just a little bit deeper, man. Sometimes you just gotta lift that last stone, all right? Because I had seen them perform this song, Rebel Girl, a few years ago, and it was not great. I gotta say it was not great, man. Sometimes it's not great. And then I watched the LA Public Library performance. You know, I called up another video of that. Not just racist, sexist boy, but the whole show. And I'm like, let's see if they did Rebel Girl. And they did. And so I watched them perform Rebel Girl at this show, which was this year, I guess. And you know what, kids? Even if it's not their song, they nailed it. All right? They nailed it like the Bikini Kill version, all right? With the guitar riff after the chorus. And I'm watching them, and it sounds almost too perfect, man. Are they dubbing this? Are they tricking us somehow? But I don't think they were, man. I think that was a legit performance. And so you can see over the course of a couple of years how much a band can improve, because they crushed it at this performance at the LA Public Library, all right? And they crushed everything at that performance at the LA Public Library. And so it was back on, man. It's like, okay, that wasn't their tune. I didn't know that, and that's on me. And I'm glad I found out, because I would hate to have come on here gushing about this tune, Rebel Girl, and how great a band the Linda Lindas are, and then find out it wasn't their song. That's egg on your humble host's face, man. And I sometimes, have night sweats, where I wake up and I'm like, I said this thing on the podcast. What if it ain't true? What if I got my facts wrong, man? I don't have a research team here, I don't have anybody working for me. It's just me. And a lot of times it's skin in my teeth, man. So I'm grateful that 5 minutes before I went on air with this, I found out just a little bit more information. But I gotta tell you, man, quite apart from Rebel Girl, this band has a thing going, and I gotta think Carlos de la Garza is involved in some of the songwriting. And that's okay, man, because there are pro songwriters working with almost everybody, all right? All those tunes you love on the Nashville radio and stuff. There's people writing those tunes, man. Prince probably wrote most of them before he died. So if this band of teenagers is getting help from a Grammy Award-winning producer who's one of their dads, guess that's okay, man, because I watched them perform the songs and nail them. Like, really, really well done. And so this is indeed bratty, teenage, 3-chord street punk / new wave. And it's really good, man, Hooks. If you go and listen to those 4 tunes that they recorded on their little EP, I mean little in the sense of it's not very long. It's like, I don't know, it's like 10 minutes, 4 songs. Street punk, man. It's got hooks, and I've talked ad nauseum about hooks and about how not everybody can write them. I can't. I struggle mightily with hooks. Whoever's writing this stuff has got hooks down, man. And yeah, there might be a song about one of their Siamese cats called Monica. And you want to go, okay, all right, it's a bunch of teenagers writing about their cat. But I'll tell you a little secret. I wrote a 3-chord punk song about one of my cats. And I wasn't 14 when I wrote it, kids. I was 42. So you can look around for reasons to turn up your nose about this, what you might call a kind of buzz or flash in the pan band, but there's actually some substance happening here. And if you listen to these tunes, there's hooks happening. The Monica song, you can't get it out of your freaking head. A lot of these tunes you can't get out of your freaking head, man, and that is the mark. That's what a hook does. That's why they call it a hook, because it hooks you, man. It hooks you and it won't let go. And the Linda Lindas have done that. And there's a thing happening, and they're taking it seriously. That's very obvious. Because you watch a performance from a couple of years ago, and it's like tons of energy, and kids bouncing around, and it's cool, but it's pretty sloppy, man. And, they're 10. Cut them some slack. Then you jump ahead a few years, and you see a band that's getting really tight. And I think they're not old enough yet to be self-conscious. And what a blessing that is, man. So this little drummer, she's like 10, 12, whatever she is in the most recent videos. And she's crushing it, man. And she doesn't even know there's any pressure. She doesn't know that over 1 million people have seen the video for Racist, Sexist Boy, She's just a kid playing the drums and playing them well. You can't fake that live, man. You have to do it. And I'm watching her hands and I'm watching her foot, and they're lining up with what's going on in what I'm hearing, man. There's no tricks happening here as far as I can tell. It's legit. And she's good and they're good. And the songs that they have written are hooky, man. And you gotta tip your hat to that. You gotta tip your hat to a bunch of teenagers playing instruments and playing rock music. Whoa. And they've got a whole thing happening. They've got a whole image happening, They've put some thought into that, and it works, and it's bratty, and it's playful. And they've got this vibe happening on the tunes, and they're catchy. And it's blowing up for a reason, man. I don't think this is just a flash in the pan, one-hit wonder thing. And I'll tell you something else. The industry doesn't think so either, because based on the strength of Racist, Sexist Boy and some of the other stuff, the band's been signed to Epitaph Records, okay? Now, some of you out there want to throw yourselves off a bridge because you've been playing for 20 years and you can't get the slightest record label to look at you. And then along come these kids with their tune and their 3-chord punk, and they get signed to Epitaph. But that's life in the modern world, man, and I don't think that's new. I don't think that's new at all, man. Buzz bands have been around forever. And they get signed by labels, and then things happen or they don't. And I don't know what's going to happen with the Linda Lindas. What I do know is that they've got a ton of goodwill happening. You look at the comments on their videos on YouTube. You look at their plays on Spotify. People are paying attention to this band, and people love this band. Why? Because there's a certain purity about them. And there's a certain charisma about them. And there's a certain kind of non-self-consciousness about them. You've seen bands come along before, maybe even young bands come along before, that seem to be aware of how much attention they're getting, Almost expect it. You've seen young bands come along who become kind of obnoxious about how good and how popular they are, You don't get that read off these kids. You just get the read that they love playing rock and roll, and they're playing it, and they're having a good time, and almost not even aware that everybody's paying attention, There's something genuine about them. Genuine is cool, man. There's something very genuine about the Linda Lindas, and they got this great live energy, and they can actually play, and they can actually sing, and they're doing cool stuff, man. And my hat is off to them, but I hope somebody's paying attention. I hope somebody's keeping an eye on them. And you have to think that Grammy Award-winning producer Carlos de la Garza is keeping an eye on them. Because you can't help but think, if it hasn't happened yet, that the haters are gonna turn up. They got a lot of things working against them. A lot of things that haters can jump on. The kind of Asian thing, all girl band, all teenager band. It's very easy to dismiss those things. And if you're inclined to a certain sort of hate, there's a lot there that you can latch on to, and people will. What we have seen over time immemorial, is that if you get really popular, especially if you get really popular really fast, to all things there is an equal and opposite reaction, kids, and there will be a backlash against the Linda Lindas. Why? Jealousy, insecurity, Some people just can't be happy for other people. Some people can't let other people have the spotlight. Even if deep down inside they like them, they're going to react badly to them. And bad reactions will come because you can't be that popular without rankling somebody. And this industry has a whole history of chewing people up and spitting them out. And I hope that doesn't happen to the Linda Lindas. This weird pressure comes. Stuff goes haywire. How many times over the years have we seen a young pop artist come along and blow up and then face the backlash, man, face the hurricane and shave her head on a whim? This messes with people, man, and so I hope somebody's keeping an eye on the Linda Lindas, and I expect probably somebody is. You got Amy Poehler in your corner, You got Bikini Kill in your corner, and when this song Racist Sexist Boy came out, there was a lot of support from people like Tom Morello, like people who have been around the block, people who have seen this industry from the inside, expressing their support for this band. So I hope somebody protects them, okay? Because they're going to go on the ride, man. COVID may have held that back just a little bit, but even if it only lasts for a year, even if this is a meteoric rise and fall, they're going to take the ride for some of that. School's out soon. Still in school, man. Go read interviews with Morgan Lander of Kitty or Mercedes. Any of the people who were in Kitty in the early years, when they were high school students, signed to a record label and touring and playing Ozfest and stuff. Getting home from school that day and then going to the studio to make their album. And the crazy pressure and the crazy temptations and the crazy stuff that became Kitty's world, pre-internet, pre-going viral. It's intense, man. I've interviewed Morgan twice, and we've talked a lot about this stuff, and it's bonkers, man. It can be bonkers. You're drinking with Slipknot, and you're 17, you know what I mean? And it's going to happen for the Linda Lindas. They're going to take this ride, even if it's just one summer's ride, They're probably going to go out. They're probably going to play some festivals. They're probably going to be on tours, They're going to face what can be, I suspect, a pretty intense freaking world out there. So I hope somebody's keeping an eye on the Linda Lindas. Hope somebody's helping them. And who knows, man, this may turn into a thing for a long time for these girls. And I hope it does, man. I hope it does, because genuineness of spirit, a genuine love for rock and roll, going out there and playing it with the best intention and writing songs that do have political overtones, man. That is three-chord punk. You got to applaud people who are doing that. You got to applaud kids who want to play guitar. You got to applaud kids who want to play the drums, man. So I'm giving my endorsement to the Linda Lindas because I think they're doing really well. And I want you to go to Spotify and I want you to listen to their EP. I want you to listen to their cover of Rebel Girl. And then go onto the YouTube and watch the entire LA Public Library performance, all right? And what you see is a band that can actually pull it off live. A band that's already getting better. A band that's poised to have a really fun ride, man. And that ride might last a while. So good on you, Linda Lindas. And I was going to turn that whole thing into a bit about some of the weird places I've played, man. Because I've played drums in a library, okay? And that's a weird and cool thing to do. In fact, it was recently, just a few years ago, our old friend Denny Boy got booked to play an event called Songs in the Stacks, which was a series of shows at the library, man. They clear out a space on the main floor of the library, St. Thomas, Ontario, and they got wine, and they got people, and they got couches, And they sit around. It's like 50 tickets or whatever. We sold it out. And the Denny boy comes up to play, and you would think it would be just Denny boy and his guitar and his looper, as he does. But he brought the full band, man, and I got to sit in that night and play drums in the library, which was one of the great moments of my life, man. Sitting down behind my full drum kit, playing in a library. Shh. You know? And yeah, we had to play quiet. Because it's a small space, man. Doesn't matter if it's a library or not. If it's a small space, you got to play quiet, all right? We got to do that, and that's cool. And that was what first kind of hooked me about the Linda Lindas thing. It's like I felt that kinship there, man. Felt that connection. It's like, oh, we got an episode here, maybe. Let's dig into that band. Then I thought, oh, there must be some other weird places I've played. And then I realized, you know what? Not so much. I've played what, when I was in Nimue, we would have called chicken wire gigs. You know what a chicken wire gig is, kids? Think back to the movie Roadhouse, okay? I think it was Roadhouse, where there's a scene where the Jeff Healey band is playing, but this bar they're playing is such a gong show that the band is actually behind chicken wire to protect them from flying bottles and chairs and stuff, you know? And so we would talk about chicken wire gigs that were basically just gigs that were foobar, man. Gigs that were strange and weird. The gear didn't work, or it was a weird stage, or just chicken wire, just not on. You know what I mean? Just not on. So I played a lot of chicken wire gigs, but actually weird places to play. Played in the laundromat one time. That was weird. Played with Lindsay and the Lonelies in a laundromat. So they somehow set up stage in this place. And over on the side of the wall is your washing machines. Through the door is your dryers, and there's like a little festival happening, and we played that. And we were setting up, and I was putting the vocal mic in front of me, and then the guy who was running stage, running front of house, tapped the other end of the boom arm and slammed that microphone right into my mouth. That happened. One time I played in Banff in a market stall. Carly Thomas and I were on the road out west, and we somehow hooked up this gig where we played at like 11 o'clock in a market stall, in an outdoor market. So you go over there and you buy your rhubarb, and you get yourself a cup of coffee, maybe buy some potatoes, stop by the stall where the Carly Thomas 2 is playing a little gig for you, man. So my drum set. That was cool though, man, because I was sitting up, right? Sitting behind the kit, and I look up, and isn't there just a mountain in front of me? I think it was Banff, might have been Jasper, not sure. I think it was Banff. Sitting there staring at the most majestic mountain, while the people wandering by eating their market pastries stop to tap their toes. And I played in a train station with Denny. Over in Europe, I played a chocolate shop a couple times with Sarah. That's weird. You know, chocolate shop? That's a little bit strange. We played at an amazing and legit, genuine castle in Germany, like 1,000-year-old castle or something. They took us in, and there's a room in the castle. I don't know, might have been a banquet room at some point. Stone walls and the deep windows, you know. There's a stage in there and a sound system, and it's freaking beautiful, man. And it's legit. This isn't Space Mountain, kids. You know, this isn't Canada's Wonderland. This is a legit, like 1,000-year-old, 800-year-old freaking castle. On the high ground, man, as all castles are. You drive into this little town, and you start going up the streets, and then you see the old, ancient walls up there above you, man. And there's some ruins, you know, and there's like a monastery, I think, something like that, or an old church. And then this castle, and we had to like lug the gear up flights of stairs, man. They didn't put an elevator in the castle. Come on, Germany. Get with the times 800 years ago and get an elevator going, man. And we played in there, and it was amazing. And they took us to the underhalls, you know. And it was all of a sudden, it was the year 1249. And there's paintings on the walls that I don't know how old they are. And there's like those long wooden benches, like something out of the Lord of the Rings. Way underground in these catacombs, man. stone everywhere, and you could just picture the castle people living there. They didn't expect any rock and roll to come from Canada, I'll tell you that right now. So that was an amazing venue to play. And I played the chicken wire gigs, but I've also played some amazing stages, man. And I played in a library one time, and that forms my kinship with the Linda Lindas. And you should go check them out, all right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you get that bumper right there, kids? Oh, yay. Yeah, the bumper. I've been thinking about this for a while, like I've got the drum bumpers that I've used, and we've all heard those, and I've been accused of a plagiarism on one of those, where somebody wrote and said, hey, way to steal that intro to I Love It Loud by Kiss, to which I say, nay, nay. That is not the intro to I Love It Loud by Kiss, and I'm not going to go into why it isn't, but I have not plagiarized anything on those drum bumpers, okay? But we're all about efficiencies here. So I'm thinking, hey, some of those drum bumpers are like 15, 20 seconds long, and who in modern times has an attention span for that? So let's just go with the oh yay and see if that works. So that's what we did. Thanks, Danny Boy, for furnishing me with that. And I haven't got new music to tip you off to this week, apart from the Linda Lindas, and that's enough, man. That's plenty. Maybe I want to go listen to some Bikini Kill, man. I think I probably will. But I sampled some stuff over the last week, and some of it was cool, some of it I didn't really dig. And I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about stuff that doesn't really move me, man. So I haven't got anything new to give you this week, so let's give you something old to listen to this week, all right? And by old, I'm talking 1986, kids, and I'm talking about the Somewhere in Time album by the Iron Maidens. The Iron Maidens, kids? I mentioned Iron Maiden on the last episode, okay? I was talking about Dave versus Sammy, and I talked about Bruce Dickinson replacing Paul Di'Anno in Iron Maiden. And that got me thinking, I've been watching some live shows, watched the U2, watched a couple of different Van Halen gigs. Let's watch a little Iron Maiden, man. And my question to you right now is there a better rhythm section in all of rock and roll than Nico McBrain and Steve Harris, man, of Iron Maiden? I don't think so, man. So last weekend, set myself up in the Barco Lounger, purchased for $10 at the Goodwill store. How you going to beat that? And I set myself back, with a glass of juice, and some grapes. Put on the Made in England DVD via YouTube. Now, I'm always a little bit nervous about watching live shows that have been produced, okay? Now, they knew when they went into making this that they were going to release this as a DVD, and Iron Maiden's done a lot of that, as you know, right? I'm always a little skeptical, and, Kiss Alive made all of us just a little bit skeptical about the live records, right? Where it sounds a little too perfect, man, because what you're hearing is not 100% the live performance. It's some of it, and then whatever they overdubbed in the studio later to make it perfect. And I don't want that. I want bootlegs, man. I want the real experience, all right? So I'm looking around for live Iron Maiden shows to watch, of which there are many, but I wanted them from the Seventh Son of a Seventh Son era, okay? Because I like the song Can I Play With Madness, and I wanted to hear them play that. But my favorite Iron Maiden record is Somewhere in Time, okay? Somewhere in Time, 1986. Wonderful freaking record, man. Wasted Years, Stranger in a Strange Land, Sea of Madness, Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner. This is a classic freaking Iron Maiden record, man. And that's what I'm recommending to you this week. You check out the Linda Lindas. Won't take you long because the songs are 2 minutes. 3-chord street punk, kids. Iron Maiden, something different, you know what I mean? Quite a different approach to the music. Some of the songs will be like 10 minutes long, it's Maiden. And who else sounds like Maiden, man? Iron Maiden, kind of universally loved among rock fans. Motorhead had that kind of thing going too. Motorhead came out, loved by the metal community, loved by the punk community, you know. Motorhead spanned genres, spanned communities. Iron Maiden is much the same, and they are an utterly unique band, man. Nobody sounds like Iron Maiden, so I'm going looking for shows, hopefully shows that aren't too produced, and shows from that era, so I could catch the stuff from Seventh Son. I could catch some of whatever they're going to play from Somewhere in Time, which was disappointingly not very much, by the way. But I wanted to see Maiden in action, and I wanted to see peak Maiden in action. And so we got this Made in England show, filmed in 1988 in Birmingham, England, home of what other seminal rock and roll band, kids? Come on, come on, come on! Birmingham! Black Sabbath, of course. And freaking great, man. Freaking great. And I don't know if any of this was sort of put together post. I don't know if they re-recorded anything or not. But this is peak Iron Maiden. I think, when I say peak Iron Maiden, I give the impression that it was downhill from there. It was not. Iron Maiden is still peak. All right? Iron Maiden is still crushing it by all accounts live. This is Bruce Dickinson, and this is Bruce Dickinson with like the studs around his wrist and the long hair with the bangs. Is there a more iconic photo? Is there a more iconic image in heavy metal than Bruce Dickinson, circa 1980s, with the metal studs on his wrist and the long hair and the bangs, and his hand in the air, screaming into a microphone with his foot up on a stage monitor? That's metal, man. That's metal. And I gotta tell you, I love the show. I loved watching it because these guys are technicians, but the songs are great. It's freaking Iron Maiden, man. And you listen to the records and you're like, can they do it? That's the great appeal for me of all the live stuff. Can they do it? Can they do it or can they not do it? They can do it, man. Iron Maiden just crushing that show. It was really freaking cool. And that band, it's so weird. Iron Maiden seems to exist in this own little weird bubble they've created. With Eddie the Head, man. And people love Iron Maiden, but you don't hear much about them. And I think they should be much more revered than they are, if that makes any sense. Because I know Iron Maiden is revered, okay? They've just been this entity rolling along for like 40 years being Iron Maiden. And they took Ghost out on tour a few years ago, kids, and that was an important moment for Ghost, getting in front of those crowds. So good on Iron Maiden for recognizing the Ghost, man. And Metallica took them out on a stadium tour after that. Stuff's gotta fall in place, kids. Nobody gets there alone. You look at the Linda Lindas, and you look at how those synchronicities can occur, man. If that little kid doesn't say something profoundly racist, maybe innocently enough, to the little drummer, and they don't write that song and they don't perform it in the LA Public Library, and the LA Public Library doesn't put that online, are we talking about the Linda Lindas? Stuff has got to fall in place. Synchronicities have to happen, and they do. Look at the Linda Lindas, look at Ghost, getting picked up by Maiden for a tour, getting picked up by Metallica for a tour. Stuff's gotta fall into place. And it doesn't hurt if you got great songs. Iron Maiden has great songs, you know it, I know it. So my suggestion to you this week, since I don't have anything brand new to share with you, is to go listen to the Somewhere in Time record by Iron Maiden. It's a wonderful rock and roll record, man. There's some Iron Maiden that doesn't have the kind of hooks I want. I'll be straight up about that. I don't love all of Iron Maiden. But the stuff I do love, I really love. You go listen to Wasted Years. You go listen to Stranger in a Strange Land. Oh, man. This is a freaking classic hard rock metal album. Iron Maiden, Somewhere in Time. So I'm going to tell you to go out and listen to Somewhere in Time this week, okay? Put it on the headphones, put it in the car loud. Whatever you do, don't upset your neighbors. But go listen to this record because it's great. And if you haven't listened to much Iron Maiden, this is a place to go and listen, all right? It's not a super duper heavy album. I mean, it's a metal album, don't get me wrong. And it sounds just like Iron Maiden, and Steve Harris is amazing. Nico McBrain is amazing. Bruce Dickinson is freaking amazing, man. Anytime I hear somebody mention Iron Maiden, I think of the Christian rock band Barren Cross. And the reason I do that is because back in the day, in the 80s, when Christian metal was happening, when the white metal scene was happening, they did everything they could to compare the Christian bands to something you might recognize from the secular world. And so you had this band called White Cross that people say, it sounds like Rat, because the singer sounded a bit like Stephen Pearcy. And it was like that kind of riffy hair metal. The first record's actually pretty good. And it's like Deliverance sounds like Metallica, and Saint sounds like Judas Priest, Well, the band that sounded like Iron Maiden, allegedly, was Barren Cross, okay? And they didn't, by the way. Barren Cross had their own kind of sound, but the singer, Mike Lee, now known as Michael Drive, sounded a bit like Bruce Dickinson, and so all of a sudden, Barren Cross sounds like Iron Maiden. Well, nobody sounds like Iron Maiden, all right? But I always think of that every time I hear about Iron Maiden. This record, Somewhere in Time, if you have not listened to that or have not listened to it recently, there's some really, really wonderful stuff on there, man. So if you're looking for something to listen to this week that you haven't before or haven't in a while, Somewhere in Time by Iron Maiden. Okay, now I'm going to rap. Soon. That's W-R-A-P, kids. But before I do that, I gotta give a couple of shout-outs, all right, man? And I'm giving one to Scott Emerald today. Scott Emerald, who went on to the Apple, left me a little rating, left me a little review. Scott says, great podcast with 3 exclamation marks, kids. I don't even think the Linda's got that. Great guy that connects with listeners, mainly music, but discusses lots of topics. That's true. The part about mainly music, but discusses lots of topics. I don't know about the great guy thing. It's not for me to say. But I thank you, Scott. I don't know if I know Scott or not. I don't know if Scott Emerald is a pseudonym for somebody. But if I do know you, let me know who you are, man. And if I don't know you, thank you so much for listening. I genuinely appreciate that. Thank you for the review. Thank you for the rating. That definitely helps the show grow. If you're one of those folks out there who has not done that yet, I do humbly request a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform, and I will appreciate that if you do it. Thank you very much, and thank you, Scott. Got to give a shout out to Jizzy Pearl. Got to give a shout out to Grace Fire, both of whom acknowledged a couple of weeks ago when I tagged them in social media posts about whatever episode that was. Talked about Jizzy, talked about Grace Fire, tagged them out there in social media land. Jizzy gave me a like, Grace Fire gave me a like and a share. Thank you to those artists. It's like I said, kids, when people are talking about your stuff, acknowledge it, man. Build a fan for life. Thank you, Jizzy. Thank you, Grace Fire. Thank you, Scott Emerald. Thank you, all of you, for coming this far on the journey. Go listen to some Lindas. Go listen to some Bikini Kill. Go listen to Iron Maiden, Somewhere in Time. And I'll check you later. Thank you once again, gentle listener, for taking in today's show. If you want to know more about the program, go to www.john-huff.com. That's JOHN-HUFF.com and click on podcast. You can also find the show on Facebook at The John Huff Podcast. If you're an Instagram person, you can find me at JW_Huff. If you're a Twitter person, you can find me at JWSHuff. No matter where you listen to the show, please do me a big, big favor and leave a rating and review. Preferably a positive one. That's all the time we have for today, but I'll be back very soon. Until then, keep your wits about you and remember, Good things happen when you put yourself out there. Bye for now. Monica! 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 It's but a Siamese cat.